Thanks, Dr. Barnes, for that talk. I think that probably feels relevant for everybody. So,
Sorry for the coughing at the end. I put off recording it as long as I could after my laryngitis, and apparently a couple snuck in at the end. So sorry about that.
no, prioritize your wellness. I'll look for folks indicating they have a question, but Dr. Davies put in the comment box that identifying values is critical. Values are inextricably linked to spiritual dimension of life, and suggest adding or modifying the personal growth section of the wheel to include that area explicitly.
Yeah, no, the wheel can be modified. I mean, it's a that's sort of the default one that a lot of coaching industries use. But if there's something that you want to put in there because it's specific to you, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Wonderful presentation, Clarissa. I applaud you for being involved in this area because I think it is critical and underappreciated. One specific question I have, in addition to what I put in the comments, is some advice regarding this problem. So I know of one person who recently committed suicide, related to stress. And I know of at least one other person who appears to outside observers to be having a lot of stress in their medical practice. The specific question is, are there early interventions or suggested approaches to somebody who seems blind to the path they're going down that are valuable to consider or evidence-based to consider?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll first by saying I'm very sorry to hear about, your experience. I don't think you're alone, unfortunately. I think a lot of people have colleagues. I mean, the numbers alone would suggest that we all know people, I think, unfortunately. I think the great part about the Lorna Breen legislation is I do think it's going to get us a bit more of like, this is standard practice, like this is what we do and we know it's evidence-based and it works. There are sort of like learning modules out there that are sort of like aimed around like, well, I want to learn more about how to do directed, like sort of, I think somebody might have some suicidal things, like how do I intervene? Like those modules exist. And actually what I can do is I can get a link and send it to Chris, and maybe she can send it to everyone after we're done. Because they do exist. I do think that, there's still work to be done, unfortunately, in that. And I think sometimes we're a little, honestly, we can be kind of afraid. Like sometimes we as physicians see things, but we're afraid to sort of overstep those professional bounds. But unfortunately, I think that we're called on to sort of to do that because, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit of a responsibility, right? That if you see someone in trouble, like you have to sort of like take that sort of, like, I don't know, that sort of social hesitancy and just say, you know what, I'm gonna, don't do it in front of the whole clinic, right? But like, schedule a time to say, look, I'm just worried about you, and just be an opening, a listening ear. But part of that is you want to make sure you sort of know the resources so you can say, okay, well, if you don't want to take, talk to me anymore, right, here's a phone number, or here's the, physician support line or whatever, so that they can sort of take it from there.
Yeah, if you see something, say something.
Yeah. Because I think there's nothing worse than sort of knowing that you saw something and then, that somebody does die by suicide, right? Like that feels terrible. So.
Thanks.
Dr. Evans has a question.
Yeah, thanks, Clarissa. There's been a lot out there to read about this problem affecting trainees, specifically suicide and burnout. And I know there's been a lot of movement around the country for more counseling, specifically like programs that are having opt-out counseling. Everybody is entered unless they choose not to. Do we have any early data as to the impact of those things in our medical schools and graduate?
I haven't seen any data on that quite yet. I've heard sort of anecdotal data, like, specific programs that are like, hey, I think this is really helping, but like, it is kind of hard because if we think about sort of like the individual rate of suicide in an individual program, you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to generalize that to say, okay, well, it worked because, nobody died this year. Like, well, yeah, but I mean, I hope not, that's not so common that you can say, look, we've got a spray, reduction after a year or two or whatever. So short answer is I'm not aware of any. I guess that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I think honestly, because of the timing, I think it's just too early. I think that'll come later.
Clarissa, I wanted to say, I had a colleague, executive director, another chapter, the last couple weeks, that she was feeling suicidal. So this is trickling down to your administrators too, because they see, and they're kind of going through the same thing with you guys. So just kind of be aware. I call it physician adjacent depression and anxiety, because we're watching what you guys are going through, and I think that's affecting them. And that's what she said. She didn't think it was her personal life. She thought it was more just dealing with, what's going on with ACP. So
Yeah. I mean, that's the sad, not the sad, there's lots of sad things, but like, that's the problem, right? Is like, we are not, I don't know what the right, like we leak out to everyone else. You know what I mean? Like if the physician on the team isn't happy, then like your nurses are probably not happy, your MAs are not happy. You know what I mean? Like it's everybody, right? It's the people that we work with. So man, I'm really leaving us on a great note. Sorry, guys.